My name is Romy Lane. I'm 27, and my life is measured in time zones and coffee refills. On paper, I'm a flight attendant based out of LAX. Off paper, I'm an addict. Not to anything dramatic, just the feeling of rolling my suitcase past the sliding doors and knowing the world is on the other side of security. Premium routes were my prize. Tokyo, Paris, Sydney. The long hauls that came with better per diem, better hotels, and a crew list that felt like family. And my best friend in the world, the person who knew every layover playlist and which hotel irons actually worked, was Zara Quinn. Zara had the kind of face people assume is honest, cat green eyes, a smile that looked like summer. We met in jump seat training and stayed up all night, highlighting safety manuals and planning who we wanted to become. Back then, we said our route to the top would be side by side. A two-woman parade of lipstick, safety demos, and brag-worthy sunrises. The first crack in that story appeared at 5:12 a.m. on a Monday. LAX was a blur of rolling bags and yawns. I was on call but relaxed because I had snagged a Tokyo rotation for the following week, 3 nights. Shinjuku Hotel, cherry blossoms flirting with the sidewalks. My phone buzzed. Romy, need you in the office. Read the message from our base supervisor, Bo. No emojis. Never good. I felt that micro drop in my stomach, the one pilots feel when the plane skips. Everything okay? I typed back. Just come by. Zara found me before I could move. She had an oat latte and that summer smile. You look like a ghost, she said. You good? Bo wants me in the office. The words felt like someone else's mouth. She tilted her head. Probably just a schedule thing. We hugged, because that's what we did, and she scented my hair with mandarin perfume. Her hand lingered at my shoulder a beat too long. I told myself I was imagining the pity in her eyes. In Bo's office, fluorescent lights turned my skin sallow. He gestured at a chair like it was a lifeboat he couldn't promise would float. Romy, he said, we received an anonymous tip about a medical concern. Medical. What? He slid a folder across the desk. My name printed on top. Inside, a screenshot of a text I'd sent Zara months ago, the night I had my first panic attack after a rough turbulent stretch. I'd written, got a prescription for a low-dose anti-anxiety med. Don't want it to mess with my long hauls. This claims you're taking medication that could impair you, Bo said gently. I have to pull you from premium routes while occupational health reviews. My mouth went dry. That's not even the full story. I know, he said, but legally, we have to be cautious. The review can take a week or more. My chest buzzed, hollow and loud. A week or more meant I'd lose the Tokyo trip and the Paris after that. It meant rent would be tight, and my mom's upcoming dental bill, forget it. I'm fine, I said, hearing the thinness in my voice. I don't even take it on flights. I believe you, he said. But we need documentation. And until then, I need to reassign your routes. I nodded because I didn't know how not to. I signed a form. I stood up as if gravity had doubled. Outside the office, the terminal was still itself beeps, announcements, tired families clutching stuffed animals, while inside my head, something valuable had been quietly smashed. Zara was waiting, chewing her lip. What happened? Anonymous tip, I said. About my meds. They're pulling my premium routes. Her eyes flared, then cooled. That sucks. I'm so sorry. I only ever told you. The sentence landed between us like a dropped plate. She blinked. You think I would? I don't want to think anything. My voice cracked on the last word. I don't know who else would know. She reached for my hand. I would never. I wanted to believe her. God. I wanted to fold into the easy faith of best friend certainty. Instead, I heard Bo's voice replay. Anonymous tip. The day swallowed me. I took a deadhead to Vegas and back, the kind of turn that barely covers gas money. I served ginger ales and smiled at people who were, for the most part, kinder than the story I was telling myself. On break, I scrolled through our crew group chat. The Tokyo rotation had already been reassigned. To Zara. She dropped 2 domestic turns and picked up my long haul. The timing was surgical. 30 minutes after I signed the form, My heart did that horrible drumline thing. In our language, that wasn't a coincidence. That was choreography. When I got home that night, my Koreatown apartment felt smaller. The view of the Hollywood sign was a rumor behind smog. I put my suitcase in its corner and didn't turn on the lights. I opened my laptop and logged into the crew portal. I stared at the swaps page until the numbers swam. Zara had taken my Tokyo and my Paris. The comments field for her accepted swap was blank. Mine said, Med review temporarily restricted. My notification tab had a DM I'd missed. From an unknown account, @Galley, gossip. Check your portal activity, it read. Girl, they're playing you. I don't scare easily. I fly through lightning and hold the hands of strangers at 38,000 feet. But that DM felt like a shadow stepping closer. I clicked, account activity. A log of every login, every location, every request. There it was. 2 days earlier, a login flagged as unfamiliar device. IP location, West Hollywood, 90069. Time, 11:47 p.m. I was on a red-eye to Miami at that time. Zara wasn't. She'd posted a boomerang at a bar in West Hollywood with glittering martinis, captioned, Insomnia Twins Unite. I stared at the IP entry until my pulse found an ugly rhythm. Inside the activity log, there was a note. Password change requested. My stomach pitched. I hadn't requested any changes. My phone buzzed again. Zara. You okay? Want me to bring soup? Soup. Like we were in a sitcom and the music would fix it. I typed, I'm good. Then deleted it. I typed, did you request a password change on my portal? Deleted. Typed nothing. I went for a run instead, at a stupid hour, through streets that smelled like jasmine and hot concrete. Every step was a replay. Her hands on my shoulders, Bo's folder, that DM. The thing about betrayal is that it never arrives alone. It brings its friends, humiliation, doubt, and a silence that makes you question your own voice. When I stopped, I was outside our favorite diner, the Turbine. We and the night crew had closed it down 100 times, laughing over pancakes and comparing layover scars. Through the window, I saw Zara at a booth. She wasn't alone. Across from her sat Reggie from scheduling Mr. I Can't Reveal Internal Processes, and Harleen from the crew desk. Zara leaned in, conspiratorial. Reggie nodded, hands slicing the air like he was explaining a trick. Harleen laughed. My throat tightened until I thought I might cough up something sharp. I didn't go in. I took a photo, my hands shook, and walked home with it, burning a rectangle in my pocket. The next morning, the group chat lit up with a selfie. Zara at the Tokyo Hotel, cherry blossoms flirting outside the window. Caption, made it babes, wish some of you were here, XX. Not all. Some. Under the selfie, a comment from Reggie. Looks like the swap worked out nicely. He never commented. Ever. I started connecting dots I didn't want to see. Anonymous tip. Password change. Late night diner meeting. Cherry blossoms in a photo that should have been mine. I called occupational health to expedite my review. The hold music was a pan flute trapped in a bathroom. When a nurse finally answered, she was kind and procedural and promised to email forms. My jaw hurt from clenching. By the time the email arrived, a new notification pinged in the crew portal. Disciplinary note added. I clicked. Suspicious activity under employee ID 33827. Investigation pending. My air left me. I wasn't just off premium routes. I was under suspicion. There's a very specific temperature to shame. It starts at the back of your neck and slides forward until your face is the color of an exit sign. I wanted to call Zara and scream, or beg, or something in between. I wanted to confess to an empty room and have it answer back. Instead, I did what I always do. I made coffee. I set the cup down on my little balcony table. I opened my laptop and pulled up the account log again. This time, I clicked more details. A modal popped with a device fingerprint and a Wi-Fi SSID captured during the login handshake. Sid Zeralux 5 grams. My cup went cold. My fingers didn't feel like mine. I stared at those letters until they blurred. My best friend had logged into my account. She'd changed my password. She'd fed my medical text to the rumor mill and to the people who could weaponize it. Then she'd taken my trips and posted a blossom selfie like a victory flag. I let the hurt wash over me once, raw and full, and then, underneath it, something cleaner rose up. Not rage. Not yet. Something like clarity. I opened a new note and wrote a title in capital letters. What happened to me at Lax? I didn't know who would read it or how loud it would get. I only knew that silence had been her weapon, and I was done handing it to her. As I typed, my phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. A voicemail transcribed itself on my screen. Romy, it's Reggie. Someone's asking questions about your account. If you value your job, don't stir things up. I looked at the screen, at his name, at the threat disguised as concern. I hit record on a voice memo and replayed the voicemail to capture the time and caller ID. Every story needs proof. Every proof needs a plan. I raised my coffee to my lips, swallowed the cold, bitter mouthful, and kept typing. If they wanted me quiet, they'd picked the wrong girl. Because I was done being the secret, and I was just about to hit post. I stared at the blinking cursor. It felt alive, like it knew the weight of what I was about to do. One click could turn a private humiliation into something public, something irreversible. I reread the first lines of my draft. My name is Romy Lane, and I'm a flight attendant based in Los Angeles. Last week, my best friend leaked my private medical information to our employer to steal my routes. I didn't use her name yet. Not because I wanted to protect her, but because I wanted the story to breathe first. Truth has more power when it isn't screaming. Before posting, I hesitated. Would anyone believe me? A young woman claiming sabotage at a major airline sounded like a headline that people click on for gossip, not justice. Still, I uploaded screenshots. The IP address with her Wi-Fi name. The anonymous tip, timestamp. The diner photo, with Reggie's face reflected in the window glass. I blurred personal info but kept the edges sharp enough to cut. Then I added one final line. Sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones who push you off the jump seat. But watch what happens when you learn to fly without them. I hit post. Within 5 minutes, the notification sound turned manic. Retweets, comments, DMs from other crew members, some supportive, some curious, some warning me to delete it before HR saw. But it was too late. The story had already escaped me and was running wild through the internet. By noon, I was sitting in a corner booth at the Turbine, the same diner where I'd seen Zara 2 nights ago. I had my laptop open, half a cold coffee, and a pulse that refused to slow. Romy? It was June, one of the senior attendants. A woman who'd flown for 20 years and survived every kind of turbulence, literal and political. She slid into the seat across from me. I saw your post, she said softly. Is it true? Every word. June exhaled through her nose, long and low. I'm not surprised. People get ugly over premium routes. She was my best friend, I said, more to myself than to her. June stirred her coffee. Then she knew where to stick the knife. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. They're talking about you in the crew group. Some are on your side, but management's rattled. They hate bad press. Good. Let them sweat. Be careful, June added. Zara's connected. Her aunt's in corporate comms. I looked up sharply. What? She nodded. Didn't she tell you? Her aunt's in charge of damage control for the airline. A chill crawled up my spine. So that's why Zara had been so calm. She'd never needed to worry about fallout. She had insurance. Thanks, June, I said, forcing a small smile. You didn't see me here. June gave me a look that said she understood. She'd seen her share of vendettas at 35,000 feet. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a male voice spoke in that fake friendly tone I'd heard from managers trying to sound casual. Romy, this is John Mercer from HR. We'd like to speak with you regarding your recent social media activity. Of course, I said evenly. When? Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., base office. He hesitated before adding, and it might be in your best interest to take the post down before then. Noted, I said, and hung up. Take it down? No. If they wanted silence, they'd have to fire me first. The next morning, The HR office felt colder than usual. A glass wall separated us from the rest of the base. Inside sat John Mercer, Beau, and, of course, Zara. Her hair was perfectly curled, her uniform immaculate. She looked like she'd stepped out of a training video. When her eyes met mine, there was a flicker. Nerves, maybe, but it vanished behind her practiced composure. Miss Lane, John began. We're here to discuss the allegations you've made publicly against another employee. Allegations? I repeated. You mean the screenshots, the data, and the proof? Zara shifted uncomfortably. I never. I cut her off. You did. You accessed my account from your Wi-Fi. You reported a false medical concern to get me grounded. And you did it with help from someone in scheduling. Beau looked between us, eyes darting like he was following a tennis match. Romy, if you have that kind of evidence, why didn't you bring it directly to us instead of posting it online? Because the system protects insiders, I said flatly. And I wasn't about to let you bury this under internal review. The silence was thick. Even John looked thrown off. Regardless, he said finally, we'll be conducting an official investigation. You're suspended with pay until we conclude. Suspended. It sounded like floating, but it felt like falling. Zara stood up, smoothing her skirt. I hope you get the help you need, Romy. My hands curled into fists. You'll need it more. She walked out without looking back. For the next 3 days, the internet did what the internet does best. It picked sides. Number flight attendant gate was trending. TikTokers dissected my screenshots like crime scene analysts. Someone even made a meme, Zara in a cherry blossom frame, captioned, "Betrayal but make it international." Part of me hated it. Part of me, the part that had sat in shame, watching someone else live my dream, felt vindicated. Still, something nagged at me. If her aunt really worked in corporate comms, they'd try to flip the story soon. And I was right. 2 days later, the airline released a statement. We are aware of a social media post containing misleading information about an internal personnel matter. The company does not comment on confidential employee issues, but we take privacy and fairness seriously. Misleading. That word burned like acid. Zara's followers flooded her defense with comments like, "She would never do that," and "People love playing the victim." But beneath the noise, more DMs started coming in. From other attendants, other bases, other cities. Romy, something similar happened to me last year. Hey, not sure if this helps, but Zara's been swapping routes suspiciously for months. She's been bragging about knowing people upstairs. It wasn't just me. She'd been doing this quietly, strategically, building her flight time, her reputation, her access. I collected every message, every name, every screenshot. A digital paper trail of broken trust. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was building a case. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. An anonymous email appeared in my inbox. Subject: Proof she set you up. Attached was a file. A recording. Zara's voice. Laughing. Romy's sweet, but too emotional. One panic attack and she's grounded. Reggie helped me file it. She'll never prove a thing. My chest tightened. It wasn't just her, it was the system around her. And now, I had her own words. I stared at my reflection in the laptop screen, my eyes rimmed red from too many sleepless nights. Revenge wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was logistics. I uploaded the audio to a private drive and backed it up twice. Then, I drafted a new post. Remember when they said my story was misleading? Here's what misleading really sounds like. My cursor hovered over upload. I took a deep breath, counted to 3, and hit post. Within hours, chaos erupted. News outlets picked up the audio. A journalist DM'd me asking for an interview. The airline's PR department went silent. And Zara? She finally texted me. Zara, take it down. You don't know what you've started. Me. No, I do. I started telling the truth. Her typing bubble appeared, then vanished. Outside my window, Los Angeles pulsed with noise and neon. I wasn't sure where this would end, but for the first time, since that 5 a.m. text from Beau, I felt like I was back in control. Still, deep down, I knew one thing. The airline wouldn't go down quietly. And neither would Zara. Because power never surrenders without a counterattack, and hers was coming. The morning after the audio leak, my phone was a battlefield. Mentions, notifications, news alerts. Half the internet thought I was a hero. The other half thought I was a liar looking for attention. But underneath all the noise, one truth hummed loud and steady. They'd been caught, and now they were bleeding. By noon, the airline issued another statement, short, corporate, and cold. The company has suspended multiple employees pending an internal review of conduct violations. We remain committed to a culture of integrity and confidentiality. Multiple employees, not one, plural. That meant Reggie too. Maybe even someone higher up. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt watched. Because by that afternoon, every social media account I had, Instagram, TikTok, even my private email, was being flooded with new followers. Some supportive, others trolling. But a few felt different. Targeted. Anonymous accounts DMing me things like, "You'll regret this. Check your lock screen, sweetheart. Delete everything before it deletes you." I blocked them all, but unease settled under my skin like static. That night, I went for a walk along Sunset Boulevard. Neon signs flickered on wet pavement, and traffic hummed like a restless heartbeat. I pulled my hoodie tighter and tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. But when I crossed the street and glanced back, someone was there. Tall, baseball cap, phone in hand, camera pointed right at me. My pulse kicked into overdrive. I turned a corner, ducked into a crowded taco stand, and waited. Minutes passed. When I finally stepped out again, he was gone. I told myself it was a coincidence. A fan. A paparazzi wannabe. But deep down, I knew better. Corporate cleanup always starts with intimidation. The next morning, I woke to an email from an anonymous sender. Subject: "You're being set up." No text. Just an attachment. I opened it carefully, half expecting malware. But it was a screenshot, an internal memo. It read, "Romy Lane investigation. Statement to media will suggest fabricated evidence and malicious intent. Potential NDA enforcement if narrative escalates." My stomach dropped. They were planning to flip the story again, this time to paint me as the liar. I forwarded it to a journalist who'd already reached out, then called June. "June, they're coming for me." She didn't sound surprised. "Of course they are. You embarrassed $1 billion company. They'll want to make an example out of you. What do I do?" She was quiet for a moment. Then, "You fight back smarter. Stop posting. Start documenting. Let them dig their own grave." "Easier said than done," I muttered. "Trust me, kid," she said. "The sky's full of snakes. But it's also full of people who've seen them bite before." For the next few days, I kept my head down. No new posts. No public statements. Instead, I started gathering everything: timestamps, screenshots, texts, even the voicemail from Reggie. I built a folder titled Stormlight My Little Rebellion, disguised as a name only I understood. Then, just as things started to quiet down, the storm came back. TMZ, BuzzFeed, Insider. They all ran the same headline. "Flight attendant accused of faking sabotage for clout." My heart sank. The articles cited internal sources, claiming my evidence was selectively edited. Zara's aunt had clearly been busy. I refreshed Twitter and saw Zara's post, her first since everything went down. "Sometimes silence is the only dignity left. Number truth wins. Number fly high." The comments section was a funeral of my reputation. "See, she's innocent. Romy's just jealous." Imagine ruining your best friend's life for views. The internet had turned on me overnight. I threw my phone onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. The silence felt heavy again. But then, my email pinged. From alex.hernandez@thecurrent.com. Subject: exclusive interview request. Alex Hernandez, award-winning investigative journalist. The kind who didn't chase gossip, but chased justice. I hesitated before replying, then typed, "I'll talk, but only if it's on record and you publish everything." His reply came 3 minutes later. "Deal." We met at a cafe in Echo Park. He was older than I expected. calm, patient eyes that looked like they'd seen every kind of corporate lie. He hit record on his phone. Start wherever you want. So I did. From training days to the betrayal to the diner photo to the leaked audio, he didn't interrupt once, just nodded, took notes, and occasionally said, "That's important, keep that." When I finished, my throat hurt from talking. "Can you prove the audio's authentic?" he asked. "Yes," I said, sliding over a copy of the metadata. "It's untouched." He studied me for a moment. "You know what happens when this goes live?" "I do. Zara and the airline will come for you. Legally, publicly, maybe both." "Let them," I said. "They already came for my career. They don't get my voice too." He smiled faintly. "You've got guts, Lane. I'll give you that." 3 days later, the article dropped. Inside the flight attendant scandal. How one woman exposed a culture of silence. It was long, detailed, and devastating. It included everything: the audio, the internal memo, the timeline. It also included testimony from other flight attendants who'd faced retaliation for speaking up. By evening, the story had exploded again. But this time, not against me. The airline's PR team tried to spin it, but the internet wasn't buying it. The hashtag flipped. Number, stand with Romy. My DMs were full of strangers thanking me for speaking up. Former employees, union reps, even passengers who remembered me from flights. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Then came the subpoena. A thick envelope on my doorstep. Inside, "You are requested to appear for a deposition in connection with an internal investigation by the airline's legal counsel." They weren't done, they were regrouping, and they wanted me under oath. I called Alex immediately. "They're trying to corner you," he said. "Standard tactic. They'll pressure you to sign an NDA or backtrack." "I won't sign anything." "Good," he said, "because I just got something new." My heart skipped. "What?" "A whistleblower from inside HR. They claim Zara's aunt approved falsified records to cover up your complaint." I froze. "Can you prove it?" "Working on it. But if we can, this goes beyond your case. It's corporate corruption." I looked out the window. The city glowed, restless and indifferent. And somewhere in that maze of light, Zara was probably watching everything crumble. I'd started this just wanting my roots back. Now, it was something bigger. I didn't know if I was ready for the kind of storm that was coming. But I knew one thing. If the sky was about to break open, I was done hiding under the clouds. Because some people start revolutions by shouting, others start them by surviving, and I was done being their quiet lesson. The next morning, I put on my uniform again, not to fly, but to fight. Because I wasn't just a flight attendant anymore. I was turbulence. And turbulence doesn't ask for permission to shake the sky. When you walk into a deposition, you think it's going to feel like justice. It doesn't. It feels like fluorescent lights and air conditioning too cold to think straight. It feels like sitting across from people who call you Miss Lane in the same tone they'd use for a criminal. That morning, I wore my uniform blazer, not regulation required, but symbolic. If they wanted to put me on trial for doing my job, I'd remind them who I was. The conference room overlooked downtown L.A., glass walls and quiet money. At the far end sat 3 lawyers in gray suits. Beside them, a company representative. And across the table Zara. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect liar. She didn't look at me, maybe she couldn't. "Miss Lane," one of the lawyers began, "thank you for coming. Please state your full name for the record." "Romy Lane." He clicked his pen. "You are aware this deposition concerns statements made publicly that have impacted the reputation of our client." "Your client?" I asked. "The airline, or the woman who stole my identity?" He paused. "We'll ask the questions, Miss Lane." I smiled without humor. "Then make them good ones." For 2 hours, they dissected everything. Why I'd posted, who had given me the audio, whether I'd edited it, whether I had any personal vendetta against Miss Quinn. That last question made me laugh. Vendetta? She weaponized my anxiety against me to steal my job. I think a vendetta is the least she deserves. Zara finally spoke. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. I never accessed her account. I don't even know how to do that. Really? I said. Because your Wi-Fi name is literally in the login log. That's circumstantial, one of the lawyers interrupted. Anyone could spoof that. I turned toward him. Anyone like the scheduling manager sitting next to her that night? He shifted uncomfortably. Bingo. Afterward, as they packed up, Zara caught my arm in the hallway. Romy, stop this, she hissed. You don't know what you're getting into. Enlighten me. There's more at stake than you think. This isn't just about me or you. People above us have dirt to lose. They'll bury you to protect themselves. I stepped closer. Then, I'll dig louder. She looked scared for the first time. You don't understand. They're watching everything. The elevator dinged, cutting her off. She stepped inside, eyes darting toward the ceiling camera. Then, almost under her breath, don't go home alone tonight. The doors slid shut before I could ask what she meant. That night, I didn't go home. I met Alex at a coffee shop that stayed open till 2. He looked tired but energized, that reporter's glint when a story's about to crack open. He slid a folder across the table. Whistleblower came through. You need to see this. Inside were screenshots of internal messages between HR staff. One from Zara's aunt. Lane issue. Ensure disciplinary note references uncooperative behavior for documentation. If pressed, say she refused to comply with wellness check. There it was. They'd falsified my record, twisted my panic attack into insubordination. I looked up at Alex. Can you publish this? I can, he said. But they'll hit back with everything. Legal threats, smear campaigns. You'll be radioactive for a while. I leaned back. I already am. He nodded, then added carefully. There's something else. My stomach dropped. What kind of complaint? He hesitated. They're saying you were unprofessional on a flight last year. The passenger? A regional director's nephew. They're going to paint you as unstable. Unstable. That word again. The one they always throw at women who stop smiling. I laughed bitterly. So, if they can't silence me, they'll gaslight me. Alex's expression hardened. We'll get ahead of it. Let's use their playbook against them. How? By leaking before they do. We spent the next 48 hours working nonstop. Emails, fact checks, metadata. I barely slept. When the story finally broke, it wasn't theirs, it was ours. Exclusive. Airline manipulated medical records to silence whistleblowing flight attendant. This time, Alex published everything. The HR emails, the falsified note, even the timeline that proved Zara's involvement. The internet exploded again. But this time, it wasn't chaos, it was outrage. A trending tag, number grounded by greed. Thousands of airline staff from around the world shared stories of retaliation and burnout. I wasn't the first. I was just the first loud enough to be heard. Then came the call I didn't expect. Miss Lane? The voice was crisp, official. This is Captain Elaine Ross. I'm the union chair for flight attendants at your airline. I straightened instinctively. Yes? We've reviewed your case. The board voted unanimously to support your reinstatement with full seniority, and the companies agreed to a settlement. My throat tightened. A settlement? They're calling it a wellness reinstatement initiative. But between us, it's hush money. Don't sign it yet. The union wants to go further. How far? Public hearing, federal oversight, a statement to Congress about employee privacy rights. For a second, I forgot to breathe. I'd started this wanting a route back to Tokyo. Now I was part of something that might actually change the system. Count me in, I said. A week later, I met with the union team in their modest downtown office. The walls were lined with photos of flight crews through the decades, women and men in crisp uniforms, smiling in front of planes older than I was. Captain Ross greeted me with a handshake that could ground a storm. You caused quite a stir, Lane. About time someone did. Guess I just hit post at the right moment, I said. She chuckled. No. You hit truth. That's rarer. But even as things started turning in my favor, a strange emptiness lingered. Zara hadn't reached out again. No texts, no calls, no posts. Until one night, a single email arrived. Subject line: I'm sorry. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, you were right. I leaked your info. I didn't mean for it to go this far. They promised me a permanent promotion if I cooperated. Now they've cut me off. Please don't let them win. Z. No excuses. No manipulation. Just confession. I stared at it for a long time. Then I forwarded it straight to Alex and Captain Ross. Because forgiveness didn't mean letting her off the hook. It meant letting me off the leash. The next morning, I was officially reinstated. Same ID number. Same wings. But something in me had shifted. When I stepped back into LAX for the first time, the air felt different. Colder, cleaner, sharper. Crew members I barely knew smiled and nodded. One whispered, "You did it for all of us," and maybe I had. But I knew the storm wasn't over. Because a week later, as I boarded my first flight back Tokyo, poetic justice, I got a text from an unknown number. "Enjoy your trip, hero. Hope you checked the tail manifest." I froze. Was it a joke? A threat? The engines outside roared to life, vibrating through the cabin. My heart matched the rhythm. The PA crackled. "Boarding complete. Prepare for departure." I glanced out the window at the tarmac, where luggage carts moved like tiny shadows under floodlights. Something about the message gnawed at me. The tail manifest. That wasn't public information. Only internal staff could access it. Someone still inside the system wanted me to know. The fight wasn't over. And as the plane lifted into the night sky, I whispered to myself, "I'm not afraid of turbulence." Because turbulence means you're still climbing. There's a saying in aviation: calm skies don't make skilled pilots. I wasn't a pilot, but after everything that had happened, I understood the sentiment better than most. Still, there was something about that text that refused to leave me alone. "Enjoy your trip, hero. Hope you checked the tail manifest." The words replayed in my head like turbulence that wouldn't settle. By the time our crew briefing started, my nerves were coiled tight. The captain, an easygoing man named Trevor, walked us through the standard checklist. Weather, clear. Flight time, 1 hours, 32 minutes. Passenger load, full. Everything normal, except me. I couldn't stop scanning faces. The gate agent, the co-pilot, even the baggage handlers through the window. Was one of them the sender? As we boarded, I forced on my professional smile. It felt more like armor than courtesy. "Welcome aboard, seat 14C, I said automatically, handing out headphones and polite nods. But every time I turned my back, I felt eyes on me. In the galley, I checked the tail manifest, the document that lists crew, supplies, and special cargo. Nothing out of the ordinary. No live animals, no sensitive materials, just the usual catering and passenger lists. But then I noticed something odd. Under crew notes, a single line. "Observer seat occupied. Clearance. Special." There was no observer scheduled for this flight. Observers are usually safety inspectors or corporate trainers, but we hadn't been told of any. I showed it to Kira, my fellow attendant. "Do you know about this?" She frowned. "No. Probably someone from the training department." "Maybe," I said, but something in my gut twisted. Because training department observers don't fly under special clearance. 4 hours into the flight, the cabin was dark and humming. Passengers asleep, window shades down, only the quiet clink of coffee cups. I walked past the cockpit, glancing toward the jump seat reserved for the observer. Someone was sitting there. A man in a charcoal suit, no visible ID, headset on. He wasn't talking to anyone, just listening. When he caught me looking, he gave a small, polite nod. But his eyes knew me. I smiled back mechanically and returned to the galley. "Who's the guy up front?" I asked Kira quietly. She shrugged. "No idea. He came on right before pushback. Captain said he's cleared by HQ." HQ. The same HQ that had tried to bury me. I forced myself to keep working, but my pulse wouldn't calm. Every time I passed the cockpit door, I felt the man's gaze track me. At hour 6, I decided to confront the captain. "Trevor, who's our observer?" He looked surprised. "Didn't you get the notice? He's from corporate safety. Name's Mark Dillon." Corporate safety. The department that reports directly to Zara's aunt. "Why's he here?" I pressed. Trevor hesitated, then lowered his voice. Between you and me, HQ wants to review in-flight professionalism after all the drama online. They're covering their bases. My chest tightened. They'd put someone on my flight to watch me. Everything okay? He asked. I forced a smile. Of course, Captain. Just turbulence. After service, I slipped into the crew rest area and opened my phone on airplane Wi-Fi illegally, I admit. One message stood out among the flood of supportive DMs. From a burner account, "He's not safety. Don't trust him. Check the manifest again." The same phrasing, "check the manifest." I opened the document once more, scrolling to the metadata. The timestamp said, it was updated 5 minutes before boarding. By user ID, HQ admin 04. That wasn't standard procedure. Crew manifests were finalized at least 2 hours before departure. Whoever Mark Dillon was, he'd been added at the last minute by someone with HQ admin access. Zara's aunt. It had to be. When we landed at Narita, exhaustion hit, like jet lag wrapped in dread. Mark disembarked early, no goodbyes. Just a brief nod in my direction, before vanishing into the terminal. Creepy, Kira muttered beside me. Hope that guy's not on our return leg. Me too, I said, though my instincts told me he would be. At the crew hotel, I tried to shake it off. Tokyo glowed beneath my window, neon veins pulsing with life. I should have felt peace. Instead, I opened my laptop and started digging. An online directory of airline employees listed no Mark Dillon in corporate safety. But there was a Mark Dillon listed under corporate compliance investigations. Different department, different purpose. His job? Internal risk management and employee conduct auditing. In other words, a company spy. I sent Alex the info immediately. He called within minutes. You're saying they planted a compliance officer on your flight? Yeah, he said he was from safety. That's illegal if they didn't disclose his purpose, especially during an ongoing legal investigation. So what do I do? Keep everything. His name, time, even how he looked at you. If they're building a new case against you, we'll flip it again. His voice hardened. They can't intimidate you mid-flight. That's retaliation. Retaliation, my least favorite word. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Messages from Kira, 3 missed calls, and a link to a breaking news article. Flight attendant under investigation for unauthorized device use during flight. My heart sank. They were accusing me of violating FAA rules because I'd used my phone mid-air. The article quoted an internal compliance source, claiming I'd accessed confidential systems in flight. Mark Dillon. He'd seen me on my phone. It didn't matter that I'd been using public Wi-Fi. They'd twist it however they wanted. For a moment, I just sat there barefoot, staring at my reflection in the hotel window, Tokyo sunrise cutting through my fear. Then I grabbed my phone and called Alex. They're framing me again, I said. Same playbook. Then we changed the ending, he replied. You ready for that? I swallowed. Ready. By the time we flew home, the airline's PR team was scrambling to control the narrative. But this time, Alex had prepared first. Before I even touched down at LAX, his next piece dropped. Corporate retaliation in the sky. Airline sends compliance officer to intimidate whistleblower. He had everything: flight logs, timestamps, my verified photos of Mark, even the updated manifest metadata. He published the entire story before they could spin it. And this time, it went nuclear. National networks picked it up. Congressional aides started tweeting. Even a senator posted, "If true, this is unacceptable. FAA oversight must follow." The airline went into full crisis mode. Their website crashed. Their social media pages turned into war zones. When I landed, Bo was waiting at the gate. He looked pale, exhausted. "Romy," he said quietly, "they want to meet with you tomorrow. Top-level execs. Legal's involved. It's serious." "I know," I said, straightening my blazer. "It always is." He hesitated. "You've made a lot of enemies upstairs, but some of us are proud of you." "Thanks, Bo." He nodded, eyes glistening. "Just be careful. They don't like losing control." I gave a small smile. "Neither do I." That night, I sat on my balcony again, the same place where all this started, and looked out at the Los Angeles skyline. For the first time, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't just fighting Zara anymore. I was fighting a machine that had learned to feed on silence. And I'd just taken away its favorite meal. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Zara's warning was more than guilt. Don't go home alone tonight. What had she meant by that? What did she know that I didn't? Because somewhere in the glittering sprawl of L.A., there were still people pulling strings I couldn't see. And something told me the next move wouldn't come from corporate. It would come from her. The next morning, I walked into headquarters with a feeling I couldn't quite name. Fear, maybe. But also resolve. The air inside the glass tower felt vacuum-sealed, expensive silence. 2 security guards escorted me to the top floor, where the airline's executive suite sat like a temple built on secrets. Conference Room A. The same room I'd once dreamed of reaching for promotions, not confrontations. Inside were 4 people. The CEO, legal counsel, HR director, and Zara's aunt Linda Quinn, impeccable in gray silk, a faint smirk on her face like she already knew how this meeting would end. "Miss Lane," she began smoothly. "Please sit." I did, keeping my hands folded to hide their shaking. "First," the CEO said, "we'd like to acknowledge the unfortunate situation surrounding your employment. However, your recent actions have created substantial reputational harm to this company." I almost laughed. Reputational harm? They'd turned my life into a press war, and I was the problem? I said evenly. Reputational harm comes from what you do, not what people learn you've done. Linda's eyes flickered. "Miss Lane," she said, "our legal department is prepared to offer you a settlement, full reinstatement, back pay, and an NDA preventing further public statements. Sign, and this ends quietly." She slid the contract across the table. 10 pages. I didn't touch it. Instead, I pulled my phone from my bag and placed it face up on the table. Recording light blinking red. The room froze. "I'm already on record," I said. "If you're making me offers to stay quiet, the public deserves to hear that too." Legal counsel leaned forward. "That's a violation of company." I cut him off. "You've already violated plenty." Then I reached into my bag again and pulled out a printed email, the one Alex had verified, sent from Linda's own address. The instruction to falsify my disciplinary note. Her composure cracked for the first time. "This is inadmissible," she hissed. "Maybe in court," I said. "But not in the court of public opinion." The CEO's jaw clenched. "What do you want, Miss Lane?" "I want accountability," I said, voice steady. "And a public apology. Not a settlement, not a hush fund. A statement admitting what you did." Linda laughed softly. "That's not going to happen. Then I'll make it happen myself." I stood up, collected my phone, and walked out before anyone could stop me. By the time I reached the elevator, my hands were trembling. It wasn't fear anymore. It was adrenaline, the kind that comes right before takeoff. Outside, Alex was waiting in his car, engine idling. He rolled down the window. "How'd it go?" "They offered me silence," I said. "So I gave them a deadline." He grinned. "You're getting good at this." "Not good," I said quietly. "Just done." We drove straight to his studio. Within hours, we recorded an interview, raw, unfiltered, final. I told everything. Names, dates, memos, the whole pattern of corporate rot that stretched beyond just me and Zara. Then, we scheduled it for release. 7 a.m. Monday morning. The same hour most of the airline's flights were boarding. That night, I got a text from Zara. "We need to talk. In person. Please." I didn't want to, but something in her earlier warning still haunted me. We met at a park near Santa Monica Pier Public, bright, noisy enough to feel safe. She looked different. No makeup, no armor. "Romy," she said, voice cracking. "They're going to destroy me." "You did that yourself," I said. Tears welled up. "You don't understand. It wasn't just me. They used me too. Linda, she made promises. Said if I helped her manage you, I'd get promoted. When the story blew up, she blamed me." I studied her face. For the first time, I saw fear instead of vanity. "Why did you text me about the tail manifest?" I asked. Because I knew they'd send someone after you, she whispered. Mark Dillon isn't just compliance, he's internal intelligence. They use him to collect dirt on employees. I thought he'd try to plant something in your record. Then why warn me? She exhaled shakily. Because I'm done playing for them. I wanted to hate her. But part of me, the part that used to share hotel breakfasts and layover playlists, still wanted to believe her. Then help me, I said. Give me proof. Emails, messages, anything. She hesitated, then pulled out a flash drive. This has everything. Internal chat logs, meeting transcripts, even Linda's direct messages about containing the liability that's you. I took it slowly. Why give this to me? Because if I'm going down, she said, I'd rather fall on the right side. I nodded once. Then let's finish it. That weekend, Alex and I verified everything. The flash drive was a gold mine, a map of deceit stretching through multiple departments. Zara wasn't innocent, but she wasn't the architect either. Linda was. We built the timeline, layered the evidence, and tied it all together for the Monday release. At 6:58 a.m., Alex hovered over the publish button. You ready? He asked. I nodded. Let's clear the skies. He hit it. By 9 a.m., every news outlet in the country had the story. Leaked internal communications, corporate manipulation, a whistleblower's bravery turned into a systemic reckoning. By noon, the FAA announced an investigation into the airline's conduct. By evening, Linda Quinn resigned for personal reasons. And Zara vanished from social media entirely. It was over. At least, officially. But I knew stories like mine don't end with headlines. They end with choices, how you rebuild after the wreckage. And I was just beginning that climb. 2 months later, I was back where it all started. Gate 72, LAX. Early morning light spilling across the tarmac. I'd been reinstated fully this time with a new title, Crew Relations Liaison. The promotion came quietly, but meaningfully. No ceremony, no PR spin. Just a new badge, a new office, and a lot of messages from crew thanking me for giving them a voice. Sometimes, victory isn't loud. It's the quiet shift of power, when the people who once silenced you start asking your advice. The airline had changed too reluctantly, but undeniably. New HR leadership, union oversight on route assignments, mandatory privacy audits. They called it the Lane reforms. And me? I called it balance restored. Zara's name wasn't mentioned anymore. I later heard she'd moved to Seattle, working for a regional carrier. Part of me hoped she was okay. Another part hoped she'd learned what loyalty really costs. Alex's series won an award. He thanked me during his acceptance speech, saying, "The sky might belong to everyone, but courage like Romy Lane's is rare." I cried, watching it on TV, not because of pride, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Not vindicated, not angry, just free. One afternoon, Beau stopped by my desk with 2 boarding passes. "Paris route," he said. "They want you to test the new crew rotation system." I smiled. "Guess I've come full circle." He grinned. "Not quite. You're the one writing the rules now." On the flight, as the plane leveled out above the clouds, I took a moment in the galley, my old kingdom. Kira was there, prepping trays. "Feels weird, huh?" she said. "Being back where it all began." "Yeah," I said softly. "But this time, I'm not running from anything." I looked out the window, endless blue stretching forever, and thought about every sleepless night, every tear, every betrayal that had brought me here. You can't control turbulence. You can only ride through it, and sometimes it lifts you higher than smooth air ever could. Before landing, I got a message from an unknown number. "Glad you're flying again, Z." No threats, no lies, just that. I stared at it for a long time before typing back. "Stay grounded, we both earned it." Then I turned my phone off and focused on the runway ahead. As we descended into Paris, I spoke into the PA one last time. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Charles de Gaulle Airport. On behalf of the crew, thank you for flying with us. And remember, no matter how rough the skies, every landing is a second chance." The cabin erupted in applause, the way it always does when the world feels right again. I smiled to myself, because this wasn't just another landing. It was mine. When we touched down, I closed my eyes and whispered, "For every woman who was told to stay quiet, may your next flight be free." Because revenge hadn't just given me justice, it had given me purpose. And Romy Lane wasn't just a flight attendant anymore. She was proof that sometimes the most powerful form of revenge is living so high above the wreckage, they can't even see you anymore.